I wear the black for the poor and the beaten down.
Neon once promised salvation to every wanderer on the two-lane blacktop, but today it flickers over a gravel parking lot outside a roadhouse that smells like stale bourbon, diesel exhaust, and last chances. Step through the warped door, and the jukebox coughs up outlaw chords while cigarette ghosts spiral toward a ceiling fan too tired to care. The crowd is thin, but every cracked vinyl bar stool holds a legend, the kind of name whispered in police reports and platinum liner notes alike. That's where our story starts. In the half-lit space where applause and arrest records overlap, where guitars were tuned with bruised knuckles, and where the American myth of the country wildcard burned brighter than the stage lights, we're about to ride shotgun with 20 men and women who treated fame like lighter fluid, striking matches just to watch the headlines flare. Their records spun to the top of the charts, but their personal lives spun faster, leaving scorch marks across motel carpets, prison bunks, and the memories of anyone close enough to feel the heat. Buckle up. The asphalt ahead is paved with broken parole, shattered backstage mirrors, and stories the Chamber of Commerce wishes would stay buried under the tour bus tires. This isn't a nostalgia trip, it's a crime scene tour set to steel guitar, a guided dive into the real reason the phrase outlaw country never needed air quotes. You'll hear about forests set ablaze, underage marriages blessed only by moonshine, and bar fights that ended with gunpowder handshakes. Hollywood might have its bad boys, but the folks we're meeting today didn't need stunt doubles. Just bail money and an appetite for trouble. Listen closely. That rattling behind the snare drum isn't loose hardware. It's the sound of shackles these singers once wore. And the encore? It comes with blue lights flashing in the rearview mirror. Ready? Let's push the saloon doors open and find out who's responsible for every dent in country music's halo. Right now. Johnny Cash steps forward first, a silhouette stitched from black denim and bad decisions. Long before the merch tables sold Folsom branded coffee mugs, Cash torched a California forest after his camper's engine spat sparks, and he refused to kill the party. Officials said the fire wiped out 49 of 70 nesting condors. Cash shrugged, "I don't give a DMN about your birds." Ad pills rattling in his guitar case, a midnight stroll through El Paso jail cells, and a taste for smashing floodlights just to watch glass glitter, and you get the man in black unfiltered. A walking caution sign humming in perfect baritone, redemption songs wrestling static every night until the spotlight finally surrendered. Hank Williams Sr. never waited for closing time. He carried closing time in his veins. By 29, he had already rewritten the hymn book of heartbreak, yet he spent more nights face down on motel carpet than on any stage. Painkillers chased bourbon, bourbon chased homemade snake oil tonics, and a spinal disorder chased him through every city limit sign he blew past. Managers found him asleep in the back seat, guitar still strapped across his chest like a life raft. When the Cadillac finally coasted to a frozen stop on New Year's Day 1953, the doctor listed causes nicer than the truth. His own ghost had been riding shotgun for years, whispering lullabies sharp as cold ice. David Allan Coe slides in like a prison shiv wrapped in rhinestones. He penned anthems that made radio programmers break into nervous sweats, then sold bootleg albums so filthy even dive bars hid them behind the counter. Before the music money rolled in, Coe was riding with outlaw bikers, pulling armed robberies and spending his birthdays in solitary at Ohio State Pen. Rumor says he tattooed "DONT mess with me" one letter at a time across knuckles freshly scabbed. Even after the gold records, he parked his tour bus outside biker rallies, trading autographs for switchblades and stories nobody can repeat on daytime airwaves. If country had a basement, Coe kept the furnace ever raging. Waylon Jennings looks like the calm after a gunfight, but the smoke kept trailing him. He gave up his seat on Buddy Holly's doomed plane, then spent a decade daring fate to finish the job. His Nashville apartment became a casino stacked with poker chips and pill bottles. The FBI once kicked the door down chasing a package of daring dust, only to find Jennings grinning, wiring cash to lawyers before the cuffs clicked. A bass line growled under every heartbeat, daring the law to keep tempo. Waylon turned rebellion into a gospel that could rattle stadium rafters, yet he never lost the look of a man still hearing propellers he chose not to board. Merle Haggard's biography reads like court transcripts. Born during the Dust Bowl, he broke into jukeboxes for pocket change, hopped freight trains, and landed behind San Quentin's walls, watching Johnny Cash perform from the inmate section. The prison bars hardened him, but they also tuned him. Every clang became a chord. Paroled with nothing but a guitar and a rap sheet, Haggard turned ex-convict grit into radio gold. Yet success never smoothed the edges. He once bailed friends out of a bar fight only to join the rematch and kept a pistol in the glove box in case applause turned sour. Even at the White House, Merle scanned exits like a man still counting steps. Jerry Lee Lewis didn't walk into rooms, he detonated them. Piano keys suffered like boxing gloves under his fists, and so did anyone questioning his appetite for mayhem. When he married his 13-year-old cousin, reporters gasped. Lewis answered by pounding out Great Balls of Fire louder, letting the scandal echo through every auditorium. He once drove to Graceland armed and half-lit, demanding Elvis come outside and settle who truly wore the crown. Security disarmed him, but the legend grew. Bottles shattered backstage nightly, and microphones melted under lighter flames he flicked mid-solo. Whether headlining or blacklisted, Lewis treated respect like a disposable pick, flicked over his shoulder after every show just to watch sparks fly. Tompall Glaser rarely makes polite history lists, and that suits him. Inside Nashville, he built Hillbilly Central, a studio where the ashtrays overflowed with unpaid rent money and the recording light doubled as a "no informants allowed" sign. He feuded with label execs who tried to tame his tribe of misfits, once sending a box of rattlesnake skins as a thank you for their input. Tompall's voice dripped molasses and moonshine, but his business moves cut like barbed wire. He led the Outlaw album revolution, siphoning profits from Music Row straight into artists' pockets. Every royalty check Nashville lost felt like another middle finger rising from Glaser's battered cowboy hat, and he savored each delicious victory. Johnny Paycheck lived his stage name like a dare. Small towns still whisper about the night he shot a man after an argument over a duck-tailed haircut. Paycheck claimed self-defense. The jury saw gray area, and he served 2 years that sounded like a concept album. Cell doors slamming, guards cursing rhythmically. Freedom barely cooled the barrel. He once hijacked his own tour bus because the driver refused a detour to a liquor store. Contracts got signed on bar napkins soaked in tequila. If the ink bled, so did someone's nose. Yet when he wrapped his throat around "take this job and shove it," every blue-collar worker felt the trigger click deep inside the American psyche. Billy Joe Shaver looked like a friendly uncle until you caught the glint of gunpowder in his grin. In 2007, he shot a man in the face outside a Waco saloon, then told the judge he acted just to get his DMN attention. The jury laughed and let him walk. Shaver lost fingers in a sawmill, sacrificed marriages to the road, and wrestled a lifelong addiction to pills that promised relief but delivered chaos. Still, he wrote hymns for Waylon and Willie that sounded like outlaw scripture. If lyric sheets were confessionals, his were stained with barroom blood, and the ink never fully dried. Friends said his handshake felt like barbed wire wrapped in gospel grace. George Jones earned the nickname Possum, but Tasmanian Devil fit better. At the height of a booze bender, his wife hid every car key. Jones rode a lawnmower 8 miles along a Texas highway to reach the liquor store. He once chased imaginary intruders through his mansion with a shotgun, only to find he'd blasted mirrors. Doctors warned his liver was staging a mutiny, yet he answered gigs with vocals so pure angels leaned closer. The contrast made him irresistible. Velvet 1 minute, barbed wire the next. Jones didn't just sing about heartbreak, he wrung it out like a washcloth over every audience, leaving puddles of regret shining beneath the honky-tonk glare at midnight always. Loretta Lynn could swing a purse with the same force she swung a lyric. Raised in coal dust and determination, she defended her marriage with the ferocity of a cornered bobcat, slapping DJs who spread rumors, threatening women who strayed too close to her man, and once hurling a drumstick at a stagehand who unplugged her microphone. The industry expected a polite country princess. She delivered an iron-lunged rebel who signed autographs while rocking a baby on her hip. Radio banned The Pill, but Lynn grinned and watched sales spike. She proved a woman could be tender and terrifying in the same breath, a blue satin glove hiding brass knuckles whenever the spotlight tested her patience. Tanya Tucker hit the charts at 13 and the bottle at not much older. She barreled through the 70s on a cloud of glitter, leather, and tabloid smoke, dating older rock stars and parking her pink Cadillac in forbidden zones just to watch security scramble. Vegas hotels kept her suite stocked with champagne and bail cash. She once rode a horse onto a nightclub dance floor, rearing it back when the band missed a cue. Critics predicted she'd burn out before adulthood. Tucker answered by belting octaves that rattled chandeliers. Every gamble she made, on stage or off, seemed to pay double, though the house lights never stopped blinking caution. Behind those rhinestone eyes, chaos plotted its encore. Charlie Rich crooned love songs smooth enough to butter biscuits, yet he carried lighter fluid in his jacket. At the 1975 CMA Awards, he set fire to John Denver's winning envelope on live television, eyes glassy with bourbon and resentment toward pop-leaning newcomers. It wasn't a stunt, it was a verdict. Rich's temper brewed alongside his cocktails. He once trashed a Nashville hotel suite because room service forgot hot sauce. Behind the piano, he looked like velvet incarnate, but backstage doors slammed so hard, the hinges begged mercy. For Rich, fame wasn't a blessing, it was a ticking fuse. Every note he played sounded like a match strike no one could stop before the boom. Townes Van Zandt wrote songs prettier than stained glass and lived nights uglier than a gutter at dawn. He'd polish a lyric until it glowed, then chase it with rotgut until the lines blurred into confession. Friends locked away his firearms during darker spirals, fearing he might ghost himself before finishing the next masterpiece. He slept under bridges, bet publishing rights in poker games, and treated medical detox like a revolving motel. On stage, he could hush a crowd with 3 chords. Off stage, he vanished for weeks, surfacing with torn jeans and notebooks full of poetry that smelled like gasoline. Genius made him radiant, but the static inside his skull never granted peace even a heartbeat. Steve Earle has outlived 7 marriages, a needle habit that emptied his veins of future tense, and a prison stint where he taught songwriting to fellow inmates between cold concrete echoes. When the judge offered rehab or time, Earle chose both, collecting scars as souvenirs. He once missed a record label meeting because he was busy getting arrested for possession. The mugshot became an album cover in waiting. Clean today, he still sings like gravel avalanching down a mountain, warning newcomers the cliff edge never really moves back. His legend proves survival can be louder than downfall, but only if you scream the chorus hard enough to drown the sirens, still smelling faintly of courthouse dust. Kris Kristofferson could quote Shakespeare, but he preferred letting helicopter rotors do the talking. After leaving the Army, he landed a chopper on Johnny Cash's lawn to hand-deliver a demo. Rotor wash scattering rosebush petals like confetti. The stunt got him a record deal and a reputation for fearless theatrics. Rhodes' scholar brain, boxer's nose, and a baritone that tasted like road dust. Kristofferson balanced brilliance and recklessness like twin shot glasses. He'd debate philosophy until sunrise, then ride a Harley through Nashville traffic, controlling the throttle with one hand and a whiskey bottle with the other. Every calculated risk looked wild. Every wild move looked poetic. He made chaos sound like graduate-level coursework everywhere. Mickey Gilley turned a dusty Texas honky-tonk into an empire so rowdy it inspired urban cowboy. But the mechanical bull wasn't the wildest thing under his roof. Gilley packed the place with oil field payday crowds, bookies, and visiting rockers eager to test the myth. Fights started quicker than drink orders. Gilley himself once broke up a knife brawl with a cue stick, then comped the combatants' drinks for entertainment value. He dodged tax agents, outsang competitors, and casually admitted he'd flown his plane under a bridge just to see if it fit. Business tycoon on paper, adrenaline junkie at heart, Gilley rode every risk like it was another chorus needing a higher note past midnight. Porter Wagoner's rhinestone suit sparkled like a disco ball, but the stories under those sequins were dark as fresh asphalt. Backstage, he juggled pills for back pain, legal briefs from former protégés, and rumors of furious shouting matches that rattled Grand Ole Opry walls. His partnership with Dolly Parton ended in lawsuits and late-night phone calls no mediator could untangle. Wagoner once confronted a bootleg merch vendor with such venom the man abandoned his entire table mid-fare. Yet the Porter Wagoner show beamed into living rooms as wholesome Saturday fare, proof a smile can hide thunderheads if the lights are bright enough. Friends swore his temper could crack stage flooring like brittle ice in January. Willie Nelson floats through American folklore like sweet smoke, but don't confuse mellow with harmless. He once punched out a Nashville studio ceiling tile because accountants hid his royalty statements, then wrote, "On the road again," while the swelling on his knuckles went down. The IRS chased him for $16 million. Nelson turned debt into a benefit album and staged poker nights on the tour bus to fund lawyers. Multiple cannabis busts only polished the halo. Policemen sometimes asked for autographs after booking him. Willie's secret weapon has always been a grin that makes rebellion look like hospitality, even when the revolver in his guitar case says otherwise beneath the red-headed stranger's calm exterior. Jewel Faye Sammi Smith hit the charts swigging whiskey straight from the bottle she hid in her guitar case. She blasted through industry polish like dynamite, cussing out executives who suggested shorter skirts and softer lyrics. She chain-smoked during TV appearances, ashes tumbling onto rhinestones as she told viewers where they could file their complaints. When police shut down a bar for serving after hours, Smith allegedly hopped the counter and poured shots for officers anyway, daring them to arrest a lady faster than they could finish singing along. Her voice made sinners weep and saints worry. Every note sounded like a door being kicked in right before freedom walked through, heels echoing in triumph. So there they stand, 20 sparks still crackling after the spotlight bulbs cool. They torched expectations, bar tabs, and sometimes entire landscapes, but every scorch mark molded the genre we blast from stereos today. Country music was never polite, it was a jailbreak hymn sung through busted amps, and these legends held the bolt cutters. Their crimes and catastrophes weren't side notes, they were verses, etched into melodies that crawl under the skin like tattoo ink. If your pulse skips when a steel guitar bends, you're feeling fingerprints left on fretboards by ex-cons, firebugs, and heartbreak queens. Danger makes memory sharper, and redemption tastes sweeter when poured through rusted barbed wire. Tomorrow some headline will try on the outlaw crown, but whispers in taverns will ask, did the newcomer bleed for the rhyme, or just rent scars the pioneers already paid for? Legends don't retire, they idle like engines at dusk, waiting for another match to strike. Until then, let the speakers growl and remember who first fed them gasoline hungry.